Hi there everybody, Gus the Hut here, and today I'm bringing you another one of my random thought videos. Today I'm going to be talking about proxying. Now there are different types of proxy that, or different categories of proxy that people seem to consider to be or whether or not to be a proxy. I'm going to go through several of the different types, and I'm going to show you some examples as well. So yeah, I'm going to change the camera angle so you can get a more intimate view of the models I'm going to show you. I'll be back in a second. And we're back. So first of all, I'll need to talk to you about what I mean by proxying. Now the basic term proxying, I've always taken it to mean using a miniature for a miniature game that is not intended for the purpose you're using it for. And I'm going to go into a few examples of those now. Now the first type of proxy that you'll come across, probably quite a common one, is stand-ins, what I would like to call a stand-in. So basically what that means is a miniature from a different line, or maybe from the same manufacturer but a different army thereabouts, that is basically being used for the non-intended purpose. So here's a good little example. This is a Sister Repentia from 40k, and I've converted it so it could be a Chaos Cultist, and just with a minor piece of conversion work. I mean, a proper stand-in is a model that you haven't modified whatsoever. So here's a good example. This is a miniature from Reaper Miniatures. It's a role-playing figure of a Marilith, multi-armed demon with a snake tail. And yeah, I'm going to be using that as a Slaanesh demon herald. So yeah, most people will not have a problem with you using stand-in miniatures. There'll be some tournaments that you might go to that say that miniatures have to be what they're supposed to be, and but for most purposes, this kind of proxying is absolutely fine in most people's books. Now you got the second type of proxy, which is heavy conversions. Here is a nice little example of something I made. So we have a Slaanesh soul grinder that I made. I can get the lighting in there a bit better on that. But yes, this is made of part of a defiler that I had lying around, and the main body of that is actually a McFarlane action figure. I don't know if you've encountered any of those, but this is from their Tortured Souls line. This is a Lucidique, I think her name was, and yep. So I did some heavy conversion work, and that's half of one model, half of another model. Once again, when doing conversions like this, if they're cool, most people won't have a problem with it. And if you're at a tournament that wanted specific manufacturers and that, most of them probably wouldn't have too much problem with this, because this is if you're at a Warhammer 40k tournament, for instance, and they insisted on only Games Workshop miniatures, well, this is more or less, apart from the sort of torso area, this is pretty much a Games Workshop miniature, just with some extra parts from elsewhere added. And it's probably about 60 to 70% Games Workshop. So yeah, that's heavy conversion. There's another example of, it's a bit dusty, I've never actually used this, it's just been sitting on my shelf. This is one of my earliest examples of making a proxy. It was a Gundam miniature that I originally created to be a sort of large Tau battlesuit, and this was pre the Riptide, so this is going back quite a long way. And that brings me on to another good point, is proxying for unit testing. Now I find it perfectly fine for anyone that wants to try out a new unit to use a stand-in proxy. Most of the time, if it looks cool, then by all means do it, and if you intend on buying the proper kit later on, then by all means. Which brings me on to my next type of proxying, what I like to call the beer can proxy. Now, if somebody turns up to a table with something like this, saying that I've got a new unit, I want to try it out, but I don't have the model and I don't have an appropriate stand-in for it, but I intend on buying it later on, then in that situation the beer can proxy is perfectly fine. There you go. Orc player turns up, plonks that down on the table. That's a Death Dread. And yeah, so you play through the game, see if it works alright. If he likes the unit, then he'll go out and buy one. If not, then he just won't use that. Saved himself a bit of money, and that's all very well and good. Now, what I won't abide is people using the beer can proxy repeatedly. Now, that kind of gaming is not on. If you're in the hobby, you should be in the hobby. At least, if you're going to use a beer can, get some plastic card, get some green stuff, make a good conversion out of it, make it look the part. If you can do an epically good conversion, then by all means do it. So that's the beer can proxy, and as one of my personal favourites, the Jack Daniels drop pod. There's one final type of proxy that I'd like to go through, and that's the scratch build. Now, I've seen some people make some epically good scratch builds. I don't have an example of that myself, but what I do have here is something that's fairly close to a scratch build. This is a, I think it's called a Orc Warcopter, and this is something that I was making for my brother. I had a few old spare parts lying around, and as you can see, this is mostly made of plastic card. There are people that can scratch build out of absolutely anything, and using no miniature parts whatsoever. They can just scratch build, sculpt their own model, build a tank from various different materials. And once again, if somebody has made a scratch build that looks absolutely cool and epic, then by all means plonk it down on the table. If it looks like a pile of scrap, if somebody's just vaguely moulded something out of blue tack, or it's a cereal packet with some rotor blades glued on the top, then you're going to have some issues with some people allowing you to use it. At the end of the day, if you've put a lot of effort into it, despite how it may look, then people should let you use it in general. And that brings me on to another good point, is not belittling people about their proxies. If somebody hasn't done a very good job of a proxy or a scratch build or a conversion, but they're fairly new at it and they've put in a lot of effort, then just try and give constructive criticism. Don't just suddenly say, oh, that looks a pile of crap, I'm not allowing that in my games. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Let them play with the toy that they've spent ages putting in a load of hard work to, and yeah, just tell them that you need to up your game, aim for your next one, and that's how people learn. That's how people improve. I mean, like you saw, there is a massive gulf between this conversion and this one. So this is one of my early works from probably a good 10 years ago. Probably slightly less than that, but about, yeah, a good 10 years ago. And I've since made a lot more conversions and done a lot more work. And this was built like within the last couple of years. So it just sort of shows that you improve over time. And if people had turned around to me and said that's a pile of crap, and it's no good, then I probably never would have even thought to try building this one. So just be very careful about how you criticise other people's work, especially if they're fairly new at it. So yeah, those are my main types of proxying and my thoughts on them and that. Do you allow proxies in your games? Do you not? Comment in the comments box below, and hopefully we'll see you again next time. See you later.